By some miracle, Ireland has managed to keep a truly ancient language alive. A Celtic language which stretches back through thousands of years. The Celtic languages once dominated Europe, from Spain to Turkey. However, one by one across Europe, these Celtic nations fell to the powers of Rome. But there were some who resisted and have persisted to this day. It is only in the past 2 centuries that the Irish language has faced extinction. To learn about the Irish language, we will look at the linguistics of Ireland throughout history. This Celtic language was brought to Ireland with the arrival of Indo-European speakers around 2400 BC, when the native Neolithic population was decimated and replaced by Indo-European speakers whose origin can be found in the centre of the European continent. Celtic is an offshoot of the Indo-European language family. Like their brethren throughout Europe and Asia, conquered the Neolithic population of pre-Celtic Britain and Ireland, whose language was replaced. This now extinct Neolithic population would have spoken a pre-Indo-European language, similar to the Basque in northern Spain, which is the last remaining pre-Indo-European language in all of Europe. There are approximately 16 Celtic languages to have ever existed. Of those, only 6 are still spoken today: Irish, Manx, Scottish Gaelic, Breton, Cornish and Welsh. The other Celtic languages, such as Gaulish in France or Galician in modern Turkey, were replaced mainly as a result of the Roman conquest of the continent. The earliest evidence of the Irish language is the mystical Ogham inscriptions dating from 400 AD. From the dawn of history, as seen in the letters of St. Patrick, Irish is encountered as the dominant language in Ireland. It was used for everyday communication as well for formal, political and religious speech. Celtic society remained isolated for millennia until 795 AD, when Vikings invaded Ireland. This was the first major intrusion on Irish as the dominant language of Ireland. The Vikings were skilled seafarers and set up Ireland's main urban centres, such as Wexford, Dublin and Limerick. The establishment of Irish towns in this manner, where foreign languages were spoken and Irish only spoken in the countryside, set up a socio-linguistic dichotomy continue in Ireland for centuries. This instilled a social perception of Irish as being a backward language. The Vikings remained in Ireland for centuries thereafter and were defeated at the famous Battle of Clontarf. The Norse language's influence on Irish is negligible. After the Vikings surrendered and lost their dominance in Ireland, their French-speaking Norse cousins, the Normans, arrived a century later. This invasion's impact on the Irish language was much more long-lasting. However, but not as a result of the French influence, but rather the arrival of English settlers with the Normans. The English language in Ireland emerged in Dublin city and its surrounding hinterland, known as the Pale in 1169 AD. This can be seen as a zone of occupation where English migrants settled and were divided from the surrounding Irish countryside. As the centuries passed after 1169, the English language failed to spread out from its epicenter in Dublin. During the Middle Ages, the English government struggled hard to suppress the Irish language and culture from disseminating into these early English settlers, enacting laws that punished English settlers from exhibiting any signs of Irishness. From the 12th to the 16th centuries, many of the Norman lords, such as the Burkes, Fitzgeralds and Butlers, began to adopt the Irish language and culture. During the 16th century, Irish was still the dominant language across Ireland, except for the zone of occupation in Dublin. However, the winds of change began to blow in continental Europe, bringing forth the infamous revolt against the Catholic Church known as the Reformation. The Reformation exacerbated tensions between Irish and English as Protestantism gained sway within English culture. A solution to this growing distrust between the Irish Catholics and English Protestants was to fund the plantation of English and Scottish settlers throughout Ireland. Massive waves of English-speaking settlers arrived in Ireland to areas of the country that had only spoken Irish before, such as Munster and the Midlands. Facing an existential threat, war broke out between the remaining Irish chieftains and the English crown. Despite early victories, the Irish chieftains were defeated at the Battle of Kinsale in 1601. Known as the Flight of the Earls, the once powerful Gaelic elite who had been defeated in battle decided to leave for Europe rather than continue in Ireland under English authority. Thousands of this elite migrated to Europe and left a power vacuum in Ireland. The institutional support for the Irish language language, upheld by this elite, vanished, and the language entered into an ever-accelerating social decline. From that time onwards, the elites of Ireland would only speak English and not Irish. In the preceding centuries, the English-speaking elite's power would grow, especially post Cromwell's decimation of the Catholic population in 1649. From 1700 AD to 1800 AD, the Catholic percentage of land ownership fell from 22% to a mere 5%. This Protestant ascendancy dominated all areas of Irish life, and the Irish-speaking natives' Catholicism was outlawed and vilified. The Irish language's status became that of an ostracised, backward language, with education through Irish only taking place in illegal and secretive which took place in the wilderness beside hedgerows. During this time, Irish went from being the majority language of the land to a minority language, only spoken in areas in the west and south away from the centres of power of the country. These rural areas, which had withstood so much to preserve their native tongue, were unfortunately hit disproportionately by deaths of the Great Irish Famine between 1845 to 1852. Between 1845 to 1855, over 2 million people left Ireland for America, with another 1 million perishing from starvation, causing the population to decrease from 8 million to 5 million within the space of 10 years. While emigration from Ireland to the New World in the 18th and early 19th century had been predominantly by wealthier Protestant Irish, such as the Ulster Scots, the famine marked the beginning of mass immigration of Irish-speaking Catholic people to the New World. The famine changed the psychology of the Irish, their focus pivoting towards America, where they could dream to leave their life of poverty and oppression and build a new prosperous life. Aware of the opportunities available in America, Irish-speaking parents began to actively discourage their children from speaking their native tongue and encouraged English instead, which would benefit them in their new life in America. During this period of mass migration to America, the Irish language developed a stigma of backwardness even among the native Irish who saw no future use of it in America. The independent Irish state was established in 1922, free of the British Empire, and it was hoped that the Irish would be revived as the dominant language of Ireland. Irish was made a compulsory language in the education system, and it was predicted that within a generation, Ireland would be predominantly Irish-speaking again. However, this has proved to be unsuccessful. Overall, the percentage of people speaking Irish as a first language has decreased since independence, while the number of second language speakers of Irish has increased. The future of Irish is uncertain. The population of Ireland is changing, and it's predicted that the native Irish will become a minority within the next 50 years, and therefore the chance of a linguistic revival of Irish is unlikely.